Hello and welcome to the CX Files for April 10th, 2025. My name is Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
I'm Peter Ryan, and Mark, as you know, I'm usually in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, but today I'm in another location that starts with M, Montego Bay, Jamaica, where I've come down for the Outsource to Jamaica event. Always a very exciting gathering of outsourcing professionals, not just from Jamaica and the Caribbean, but also from around the world. You've been a speaker at previous events, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've been down to Montego Bay. I was there with you before, and I think didn't we go to a yacht club and everybody got food poisoning or something? There was
Yes.
something happened there.
That was perhaps one of the most unpleasant trips home I have ever had. And all I can say is that it was an unfortunate situation. It was a great trip, but definitely I think that's one spot I won't be eating at on this visit.
Yeah. I'm sure that you can find somewhere that's not going to send you home sitting in the bathroom all the way home to Canada.
Yeah, well, there's always a Hard Rock Cafe to be found when you need one. But Mark, today on the CX Files, I'm really excited because we're going to be discussing another event that took place just a few short weeks ago. Now, as a bit of a backgrounder, we've had Alliance BPO representatives on the podcast previously. I know Dan Castillo has been on once or twice. Today, we're going to be having Juan Caire, the other co-founder of Alliance BPO, join us. Now, Juan is going to be joined by Jim Farnsworth, who's, again, a longtime friend of the pod and of you and I. We're going to be talking about the Alliance BPO Leadership Summit that happened in Hermosillo, Mexico, the beginning of March. Now, Dan and Juan, the co-founders of Alliance BPO, are very passionate about their company, but they're also very passionate about the community from which they come and the state that they're from as well. Hermosillo in Sonora, in the north of Mexico, maybe about a 3.5 hour drive from the American border. And what we did was we thought that it would be a good idea to catch up with Juan and with Jim. Jim is a participant, and Juan is one of the co-hosts of the event to find out a little bit about the background of the BPO and CX Leadership Summit, a little bit about what took place during the trip, and especially from Jim's standpoint, what he was able to glean during his time on the ground in Mexico, in Hermosillo, as a means of understanding the BPO dynamic, why it might be attractive to individuals who would be looking for a new destination. And overall, it was a very great and informative chat about a very great and a very informative event.
And what were the sort of key takeaways from that? What did they talk about as I mean, because at the moment we see a lot of chaos going on in the world in terms of international trade, but it seems so far to have not really affected services. So, there's a lot of focus on manufacturing and import export of actual physical products. But
Mhm.
were they talking about any clouds on the horizon for the nearshore environment?
Well, look, I think everything was on the table, the good, bad, and the ugly. But what was, I think, a key takeaway for me related to the fact that the world might be perceived to be getting flat, that there's an idea that we have exhausted all the different established and emerging delivery locations in the near shore and the offshore. But within some countries like Mexico that are significantly quite big in population as well as in geography, you do have pockets that remain relatively untouched or unexplored, and Hermosillo is one of them. Not only did we have a chance to catch up with the team from Alliance BPO, but they were gracious enough to invite other BPO competitors to come to the event and to invite people from the local and state economic development agency. And in fact, there was even a representative from the American consulate there. So we were really able to get, I think, a good understanding of a city that's not small in magnitude, Mark. It's almost 1.5 million people. I mean, that's a pretty big place. And we were able to find out a little bit about what's driving more and more interest in the community, in the state, and also in terms of Mexico. Because look, Mark, you can remember along with me 20 years ago, there were really 4 or 5 main outsourcing locations. You had India, you had the Philippines, you had South Africa, and you had Mexico. And the reality is, it's like they said about IBM. Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. Well, nobody ever got fired for sending BPO work into Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an interesting point that you raise about new locations within trusted environments. We've seen that happen in places like India as environments like Bangalore just became completely oversaturated with service providers locating there. But there's many cities all over the world that have got millions of people. I mean, you're talking about places that might be 2 or 3 Dublins, and yet we still consider them to be small relative to other cities nearby.
Exactly, exactly. So I think, Mark, now would be a great time to tee up the chat that I had with Juan Caire of Alliance BPO and Jim Farnsworth of Octayne, and find out a little bit what they have to say. Well, a big greetings to all CX Files listeners this week. We have got a very interesting podcast that's going to discuss a recent event that took place in Hermosillo. And Jim, you will hear I pronounced it properly or attempted to. This was a recap, or this is going to be a recap of the Alliance BPO and CX Leadership Summit. Now, this happened towards the start of March in Hermosillo, Mexico. And to chat a little bit about the event, about its origins, how it went, and what some of the key takeaways were, I'm joined by one of the principal organizers of it, Juan Caire, who is a co-founder of Alliance BPO. Juan, great to see you, and thanks for joining this morning. Very early for you, I know, but we do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. And yes, this is standard time for me, so not a problem. Happy to be here with you.
Well, great. I don't feel so bad then. We're also joined by one of the attendees, Jim Farnsworth with Octayne, who is based in Denver, also a couple of time zones back from where I am. Jim, thanks also to you for an early start this morning.
No problem, Peter. Always a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
Well, thanks to you for coming, and the same to you, JC. Juan, JC, it's intermittent. Friends of Juan know him as JC. So for our purposes, we'll stick with JC today. So JC, I am going to start with you as we kick off our chat. Can you talk a little bit about the Alliance BPO and CX Leadership Summit? Can you talk a little bit about what the impetus of the event was, what prompted you to host this gathering, who attended, etc.?
Of course, and thank you for asking. So my business partner and myself, we've been in the industry for many years now and had the opportunity to travel, go to other conferences, meet people outside of Mexico, even outside of the American continent. And every time we talked about coming from Mexico, usually people refer to it as either Mexico City or Monterrey or Guadalajara, like the big cities that are known to everybody. But when we start talking about Hermosillo, where we're from, and the industry that has been developed in this region in the country, we learned that it was new to a lot of people. They not only did not know about the existence of our city and state, and that it was also a prosperous place for the BPO industry, but also they were not like fully aware of all the other opportunities that lie up on this side of the country, such as the bilingual, bicultural population and demographics, and the rapid growth there are in other industries outside of the BPO itself, such as technology and others. So when the opportunity came about and we decided to move forward with it, we thought that it was going to be not only a good opportunity for us as an organization to bring in visitors and get to know our company, but also for them to understand that where we're situated is a prosperous region within the country with lots of opportunity for growth. So that's the main reason why. Now, people that attended were leaders from the industry around the globe. We also had government officials, because we also wanted to demonstrate that the government and authorities here are very pro-business. They are very supportive of developing business relationships. And that also helps address any idea or thought or concern surrounding the business environment. So that's the main reason why they also wanted to be part of that. And then another group that was part of the event as well were other entrepreneurs and other BPO leaders in town, because there are several companies in Hermosillo that deliver for other organizations outside of Mexico, whether it's the United States or Canada or Europe. There is a lot of diversity on the services and type of companies that provide services here. So we also thought it would be a good opportunity for them to meet the people that was coming over, and as well as their visitors and delegates, to understand that there is a broader scope of companies that are working in the BPO space here in our city. So that's the main reason why. If I can make a conclusion, is more so putting Hermosillo on the map, while at the same time elevating our other companies that might be competitors, but we refer to them mostly as partners because we're in the same industry, we just support different clients. That's all. So that's the main reason why.
Great overview, JC. And something that really struck me was the international nature of the people that attended. You know, we had individuals traveling in from abroad, from the US, from Canada, from the United Kingdom. We even had delegates from Central and Eastern Europe who represented Bulgaria. So very international flavor, and I think goes beyond that traditional nearshore positioning that many Mexican operators and many Mexican destinations try to really go after. So nicely done on that. Now, Jim, from your angle, I know that from our chatting, despite the fact that you're originally from New Mexico, I don't believe you'd ever had the chance to visit Hermosillo. What were your impressions when you got the invitation, and what prompted you to want to attend this leadership summit?
Sure. Peter, actually, I had been to Hermosillo once before, very briefly, but it was about 10 years ago. So part of my interest was in understanding the differences between what I'd seen before and what is today. It has become a very talked about destination within Mexico for business in general, and you know, particularly in customer experience and outsourcing. And then I think what JC just said about the fact that it was a multi-party event with government, with competitors, with customers. I mean, it was very exciting to see that. And so for me, it was an opportunity to get to know that market better, not only for the city of Hermosillo, but also for the state of Sonora. And it certainly fulfilled all the expectations I had for it.
And that's interesting, Jim, because, you know, over your career, you've had the chance to assess a lot of different destinations. You've had the chance to take a look at what's happening in places like Asia Pacific. You've been instrumental in helping organizations craft strategies around Central Eastern Europe, Africa. The nearshore is something that you and I have collaborated on over the course of our time in the industry together. And I'd be curious to get a sense from yourself about what makes Hermosillo stand out as a destination in 2025 and beyond.
Sure. Yeah, Peter. Honestly, I appreciate you're talking about, you know, having been global. I honestly think United Airlines should be paying me instead of me paying them after all these years. But I think what stood out for me, and I hear this in talking with other people that were at the event, I heard this as well. It's a very dynamic city. It is. It's almost a well-kept secret, if you will, within Mexico. It's, you know, there's a population of about 1 million people. The infrastructure is great. The workforce is young, well-educated, heavily bilingual, or, you know, heavily English-speaking, fluently bilingual when they do, both in speaking and writing. The business climate is good. I know a lot of times companies, you know, get concerned, or certainly people in the United States get overly concerned with Mexico, and, you know, you hear the headlines or you hear the political rubbish that goes on back and forth. But to me, it feels like you're doing business in a very dynamic place with good people who are committed to success. And I think the results show that, both in what what we've seen from Alliance and what others in the industry that JC invited to the event can talk about as well. So I'm very impressed with it.
So let's talk a little bit about the event itself. JC, what do you see as the key results of the event? As the individual or as one of the co-founders of Alliance BPO that put on this event, if you were to think a little bit about the key takeaways that you pulled out, what were they?
That's a very good question, and I will say from all different angles, starting with the people that visit us and honored with their presence, as well as government officials and authorities and our peers that also went with us to the event. I will say that it was awareness and having more clarity on the potential that there is here in our region to grow even further within the BPO industry. And I think that is the first step because we never anticipated any of this to become transactional at any point in time. We understand that awareness is the first step, and then the rest is going to take time to develop. And it also requires more work and I will say laborious follow-up from all of us, right? And so, but I will say that it was very well received from everybody, meaning getting to know the city, getting to know its attributes, getting to meet new people, getting to learn from the conditions for doing business here in our region, and also being aware of the potential that this is actually a competitive geographical location to do business. So I will say that was a huge success.
You do raise something that's interesting for me though, and that's awareness, because I had the sense that while all the delegates that had traveled into the event were certainly gaining a greater level of understanding and awareness of Alliance BPO and Hermosillo, what was also abundantly clear was the extent to which you saw people from the Economic Development Agency and different government bodies that were taking on the potential of BPO in this regard. So really, JC, it was a bit of a two-way street, wasn't it? There was a lot of on-the-ground learning by local native residents of Hermosillo.
Yes, and I will add, coupled with awareness, it'll be engagement because the Economic Development Office here from Hermosillo was also very much aware after the event of the potential that lies within the industry to generate like highly qualified employment and diversify the economic activities of the city. And so they also want to be part on doing more and supporting the industry here, but also at other levels, the state secretary also wants to be part of that. And likewise, the U.S. consul. So all of that is to say, there is a very positive synergy taking place following the awareness and engagement that was stemmed from the event that took place.
Jim, I'm going to give you the final word here. More broadly speaking, when we take a look at the fact that there is a conventional wisdom that the world is becoming flat, that we're not really seeing the level of promotion of new destinations popping up like we were maybe 5-10 years ago, where literally every other country on the map was trying to vaunt their services as a new BPO destination. It's refreshing to see a location like Hermosillo and locally grown operators like Alliance BPO coming to the table. Where do you see in the broader nearshore dynamic and even the more broader offshore dynamic, a location like Hermosillo and emerging players like Alliance BPO playing a role in outsourcing moving forward?
Peter, it's you're right. Everybody's looking for the next destination. In many cases, they're looking at them for the wrong reasons. When they look only at cost or they look only at price from an outsourcing perspective, they're overlooking the quality that comes with places like Hermosillo. And lo and behold, you do get a good price. You get the right price. And so I think the industry is going to have to look less toward where can I find these massive centers of population, like you found in Manila, for example, or you've found in cities in India, and look more to where am I going to find the right population. that gives me the value that I need rather than just the next cheapest thing. And when I advise companies, I'm telling them that a lot, especially in light of where we're going with automation in the world. And it's the price game in BPO is going to have to change. It's no longer going to be about price as much as it's going to be about value, because maybe automation will take the number of people needed down, but the people that remain are going to have to be better skilled, better hired, better trained, better developed continuously, and better paid. And so when you think about cities like Hermosillo, and you think about companies like Alliance, who not only have a great people side to their business, but they have I was very impressed by seeing the technology side that's been developed, the proprietary technology that JC and his team have developed. And I think that's where outsourcing is going to have to look, because the days of massive populations are going to be balanced with automation. And so what remains is going to have to be not transactional, but outcome based customer experience. And that's where people are going to make a difference. And yes, price is important, cost is important. So when you can find places like Hermosillo where you get both, you're really going to be able to capitalize on that. And I think in talking with Alliance, I know Hermosillo is not the only spot. They're also in South Africa, and they're looking very, very astutely at other places to be, but not just because they need to be there, but because those are the right places to go. And that's something I think is the industry's badly in need of that, and it's good to see somebody fulfilling that need.
And that raises a really good point, Jim. JC, you were emphatic during the leadership summit that you wanted to highlight that Alliance BPO is leveraging a great network of partnerships from around the world. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because this is not something that you shied away from. This is something that you really leaned into. Maybe that aspect of the summit was one of the more original ones, where you brought in virtually a whole series of your partners in different parts of the world. Maybe just talk us through that a little bit.
Of course. So we're very proud of the partners that we have in South Africa and the other ones that we have in Egypt. And that came to be out of the need to support our clients, because number one, we needed a robust overnight support, and English had to be the primary language. So we also understand that a limiting factor where we live is that relying on overnight here alone, it would have been difficult. And the one that would have ended up suffering that is going to be our client. So we were very transparent with our client and with everybody when we said, you know what, I think the best thing to do is bring in one of the partners, dear friends of ours. We know them. They work fairly well. They have really good work ethic. So we'll bring him on. We will manage the program with them. We'll take care of everything. And everybody wins, because it's daytime in South Africa when we need to cover the night shift here. And English is their primary language. So there's not any point of concern there. And we can make the economics work. I don't think that's ever going to be a concern. Because at the end of the day, if the client is happy and they're successful, then that means that all of us are successful. And then the same thing happened with Egypt, because one of our clients were growing so rapidly that they wanted to go into the Canadian market, and they did. And they wanted to tap into the French Canadian demographics. They also did that, but they did not have staff available to support those interactions. So again, going with the same principle that I just explained, it was fast, it was easy, and the client got the solution that they were looking for. So I think that leveraging that model of partnerships with other BPOs, it makes sense when it's about solving a problem for a client. Because again, everybody wins, and it only creates a positive synergy where more growth comes into place for all of us. So that's how we came about it. That's how we feel about that. We're not uncomfortable by any means. And I think I mentioned this before, but we also believe that there is enough to go around for everybody. So we just want to make sure that we connect the right dots at the right time. That's all.
Super duper. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Jim Farnsworth from Octayne, Juan Caire from Alliance BPO. It's been great catching up with you, gentlemen, to talk a little bit about the recent event in Hermosillo. And we look forward to having both of you back on the CX Files very soon.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.